Right, our quarterfinalists are known. So this is the preview for the quarterfinals. I've done the review for the group stage games in the previous video, and this is a quarterfinals that no one really expected, except for Belgium versus Spain. And it's very peculiar in that Australia, who finished first in Group A, probably would not have hoped for the team that they are facing, and India and Great Britain, who finished second and third respectively in their group, as probably Germany and Argentina, will be relatively happy with who they're facing. So I'm I don't exactly know what to expect. If we're honest, we can't know what to expect because these teams, most of them, have had lots of ups and downs recently, and there's no real pattern except for Belgium and Australia dominating their opponents recently, except for at the European Championships in Belgium's case. There's no real pattern with which we can deduct if one team is going to absolutely demolish the other, if they're going to dominate the game, if they're going to win or lose. And that's a beautiful thing, I think, in the quarterfinals, because in the quarterfinals, oftentimes you get the first team against the fourth team or second against the third, and you can, with relative ease, predict who's going to walk away victorious. Whereas in these quarterfinals, nothing is as sure. The game I'm most certain of is Belgium versus Spain, but then again, we have seen Spain draw against Australia. Yes, Australia weren't at their best, but Belgium defensively hasn't been very good at this tournament. Offensively, yes, but if you can shut that offense down, you definitely have a chance. So Belgium will be happy with Spain, of course. Spain has only scored 9 goals in their 5 games, conceded 10. So defensively, they haven't been terrible at all. It's just offensively they can't generate much, and a lot of the time their play has been stale, one could say. Uninspired, maybe a little lackadaisical, running after the ball instead of controlling it, instead of tiring the opponents out. But Belgium, when we look at their stats, they've conceded 9, they've scored 26. They are the highest scoring team at this tournament. A lot of them came from the penalty corners. Alexander Hendricks is the top scorer at this tournament so far with 9 goals. But Belgium does have injury problems. They have some selection problems. Hendricks took a stick to the face. He doesn't have a broken nose, so he should be fine, I think. Even if it's in limited capacity, he's a good add on the penalty corners. But even if he isn't playing, they've got Leupart for penalty corner duty. They've got Tompone, so they do have some great options there. But Nicolas de Kerpel is injured. Simon Gognard didn't play the last game. I'm not exactly sure if that was precautionary or if he was just given a rest. But with the injuries that they have faced recently, that squad will be slightly tired, but so will Spain after the game versus Australia. And this game could go either way, but I'm expecting a relatively comfortable Belgium win. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm expecting Belgium to win by 3-4 goals. I'm not expecting 9-1 or 9-5, but Spain will fight in the first quarter, I think, and then once they concede that first and or second goal, the game will slip away from them. Then we've got India versus Great Britain, and the winner of that game will go on to face the winner of Belgium versus Spain, and both India and Great Britain will be happy with their opponents. So India first finished second in Group A, just 1 point off Australia, and Great Britain finished third in Group B, but Great Britain should have probably finished second in Group B, and India could have finished first in Group A. So it's really an interesting matchup in that India has been a mixed bag offensively and defensively, but so has Great Britain. We've seen India get absolutely demolished 7-1 by Australia, and though, yes, they weren't at their best, it's a sign that India still has some trouble getting themselves going at some points, and offensively, they are good if they're on form, but we have seen in the last game they conceded 3 against Japan, they conceded 7 against Australia. If Great Britain can get at them like they did against Belgium at this tournament and at the European Championships, like they did against the Netherlands, they can definitely hurt India. Now, Great Britain has only scored 11 goals in 5 games, but equally they have only conceded 11 in 5 games. And you have to think they've faced Germany, they faced Belgium, they faced the Netherlands and South Africa, who, let's be honest, were an excellent team. It's not a bad record. Now, they will need to get that offense going with Shipperley, Ward, Ansell. Now, obviously, Ward has been scoring quite a few on the penalty corner, but they need to get Liam Ansell going. They need to get Shipperley going with more goals. Yes, he scored against Belgium. Yes, he played very well, but you need more than just one guy who you can rely on and more than just one phase on the penalty corners, because if India can make sure that those penalty corners that Great Britain get is in limited numbers, India has an excellent chance. Equally, if Great Britain can set up very solidly in defense and then control the midfield and maybe counter, it's something that they can hurt India with. Both have a young squad, especially India has a very young squad with some players that are inexperienced on this stage. But it'll be a great matchup with two, I'm not going to say underdogs, but two teams that no one expects to see in the final. But the winner of this will go on to face Belgium or Spain, and I could see India or Great Britain easily, well, maybe not easily, but I could see them beating Spain or Belgium. So it'll be a very interesting quarterfinals, and I'm looking forward to the semifinals, regardless of who plays in it. Now, on the other side of the bracket, we have Germany versus Argentina, and similarly to India versus Great Britain, both teams will be relatively happy with who they're facing. Obviously, Argentina knows that Germany is gettable. They have seen it with France against Germany at the Euros. They have seen it with South Africa against Germany. Germany isn't a bad team at all. They're very, very good, but they do have some problems. They really have some problems there in that squad. Defensively, they're very young. You think of guys like Bosserhoff, you think of Stadler. Obviously, Heiner is more experienced. Hauke in the midfield is more experienced. Windfeder is in between that stage of still being young and being a more experienced guy. But with the amount of caps he has, you gotta consider him one of the leaders, which he should be considered as. But Argentina, as we've said, they have a very, very old squad, a very aging squad. They have won the gold medal in the previous Olympics, so they know what it takes and they know exactly how to win. They know how not to lose equally, but they've had a very mediocre group stage, only getting through in the last game because of New Zealand, who just didn't play very, very well against Argentina, and also with some luck, of course. Spain with luck also in the quarterfinals, but New Zealand did have some bad luck in their run in the group stages. But Argentina will be happy with this draw, as will Germany. Both teams are gettable. Argentina's offense hasn't been very inspiring. I was expecting a little more from guys like Mazzilli, like Villa, like Tonali on the penalty corner. With Germany, they have a good offense, scoring 19 goals, conceding 10. So the edge should go to Germany here, and I'm expecting a German win. But if Argentina can, much like Great Britain, control those more important players and the playmakers for Germany, they have a good shot. If they can make sure that the penalty corners for Germany are limited, that Germany is forcing the ball into the tee like they sometimes do when it takes too long to score, Argentina has a good shot at the semi-finals. And then we have the absolute bomb burner, that is Australia versus the Netherlands. And Australia won't be happy to see the Netherlands. Yes, the Netherlands has not been very good. One could say that it is the come down from the European Champions victory. The Netherlands really went for the European Championship, and though it does inspire some confidence, it also has tired some players out, of course. And Australia just didn't play very well against Spain, let's be honest here. But we have seen with Australia, their offense is incredible. Guys like Govers have been scoring freely, Brandt has been scoring freely, and then they've got Zalewski, Beale, Craig. Everyone has been getting on the score sheet pretty much. So that's something that Australia can count on and definitely will make use of, is that everyone is dangerous, and singling out just one player for the Netherlands would be foolish. Now, the Netherlands, their record 13 goals for, 13 conceded. We saw with that game against Great Britain, against South Africa, that they are gettable. Even against Germany, it's not been a good tournament for them at all. However, you cannot underestimate them. You cannot go into the game, if you're Australia, thinking that this will be a walkover, that this will be a walk in the park, that guys like Bakker, Herzberger, Kroon, guys like Schuurman are tired from the European Championships, that they have nothing left to give at this tournament at least. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They still have a lot to give, and you need to be very, very vigilant and very careful of how you approach this game for both teams. Having to claw your way back, having to come back from an early goal will be hugely detrimental, no matter who the team is here. So Australia and the Netherlands will need to make sure that they don't concede early on, that they do create some good opportunities, that they get control of the game very, very early on. They get control of the ball rather than having to run after it. Because in this heat in Japan, after the group stages, with the semi-finals against Germany or Argentina, they will need to preserve some energy, and they can't empty the tank completely. So controlling that game and getting an early goal will be very interesting, will be very important rather, and would give us a very interesting game. But you can't be chasing the game in the quarterfinals, certainly not in this game. So I'm expecting Australia to win simply because offensively I cannot see the Netherlands stopping them. We have seen against South Africa, against Germany. If you take the game to the Netherlands, they will struggle in defense. Now, if any coach can beat Australia despite a mediocre, or let's say as it is, a bad group stages, it's Max Caldas. To me, still one of the best coaches in the world. I have complete faith in Max Caldas. I'm not Dutch, so I'm not necessarily rooting for Holland. I'm impartial, let's be fair. I'm actually impartial at this tournament. Max Caldas can definitely win and beat Australia, but equally, Colin Batch isn't a slouch either in the Australian dugout. So could go either way, but the offensive firepower that Australia has just seems a bit too much for the Netherlands to deal with, in my opinion. So I'm going with an Australian victory. I'm going with a German victory, with India versus Great Britain. I honestly cannot tell, but I think India. I just think India, because if they can negate those penalty corners, they've got a good shot. And then Belgium versus Spain, I will go with Belgium. So my predictions for the semi-finals: Australia versus Germany and India versus Belgium. I could be totally wrong. Of course, it's hockey. Anything can happen. I hope we get a surprise here and there. I hope we get the underdog teams scoring early, and then it'll be interesting to see what the favorites do. But that has been it for this preview. If you've enjoyed this video, thank you very, very much for watching. Now, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please consider liking the video. And I'll talk to you later.